Hey there, welcome to yet another conversation on meeting life's challenges. Today's lesson is going to focus more on stress and health, which is where we were last time we had interacted. And we're going to move ahead to the second half of the chapter, which also focuses a lot on the concept of coping. So, guys, though it's true that all of us experience stressors in our everyday life, but how is it that we truly, essentially cope with it meaningfully so that we can take better perspective is what we will explore in today's lesson. So, as we set out, today's lesson starts with focusing on the whole idea of health. So, guys, being teenagers, how important is your health to you? What is it that you truly do to safeguard the best interest of your health? It is to do with eating healthy food, with sleeping on time, and also drinking enough water. Which of the three do you actually are able to adhere to? Unfortunately, the body only has certain resources to keep up with itself when it comes to healthy, nutritious food, proper sleep, and good fueling in terms of the liquids that we put in our body. Failing which, all of this can result in drastic health issues. So, my request is that if you're not already following these three things, however cliched they may be, it is my suggestion to take care of your sleeping regularly at a decent hour and consistently, even on weekends, as well as eating some amount of nutritious food. It may not be everything that I would, force you to put down your throat. However, eating good, healthy food goes a long way in the body keeping up with whatever it is that you need to keep up with. Last off, drinking enough water is necessary. Guys, please understand the cells in your body are made up of 80% of water itself. And giving the body enough water is necessary to take you a long way when it comes to keeping up with your health. Let's explore what the book has to say to us today. Let's look at this definition together. Stress is something which can lead to a very unhealthy lifestyle. It is something that's quite damaging to our behavior, right? So, when it comes to the definition of lifestyle, lifestyle is something which is to do with your overall pattern of decisions and behaviors which you take to determine the health or the quality of life of the individual. So imagine how your decisions and behaviors are actually determining the quality of your life. So the quality of your life rests in your ability to sleep timely, consistently on a daily basis, as well as having good food and adopting some practices which can support your well-being in the long run. So that is actually the definition of lifestyle. Moving ahead, we have the definition of pathogens. Pathogens, guys, are those things which are agents which cause a lot of physical illness. So any kind of physical illness, be it a common cold or a stomach bug, all of this is caused by the pathogens which enter your body and the blood cells are unable to fight against it, right? So, of course, like I mentioned earlier, poor nutrition is a big reason why all of us fall sick, as well as lack of proper sleep, which means that you're sleeping too much or you're sleeping too less and you're sleeping very late at night. All of this, it can result in some risk-taking behaviors as it makes you unnecessarily moody. And this can kind of get you to resort in alcohol and smoking, all of which is very unhealthy, and it impairs your ability to develop healthy patterns of thought and behaviors as well, right? All of this kind of comes with a lot of unpleasant experiences, of course temporarily, but if this lasts, it can become more permanent. So guys, it is so important to keep a healthy lifestyle, right? As it's imperative when it comes to the relations between keeping up with a stress-free life. With that, we're going to go on to the second part of the chapter to explore. The next half of the chapter actually explores the concept of coping. So, how is it that we cope, guys, in our everyday life? We experience so many stressors, and these stressors, they tend to have a lasting impression upon our existence. They tend to be intrusive, they give us morbid thoughts, they make us question ourselves and also beat up on our own self. We have this tendency to tell ourselves that we're not good enough or we're not worthy enough, we're not valuable enough. So which is quite overwhelming, and it gets you to think whether if you're doing well, if you're winning through life or you're thinning through life, right? So all of us also vary in our abilities to cope with our everyday. What these strategies are all about and how do we really cope is what we will explore with today's lesson. But before we go there, I'm curious to know from you, how is it that you truly cope in stressful situations? What are the tools and techniques that you personally use when it comes to coping with adequate amounts of stress? Also, do you have the ability to tone down a magnified stressor in your life and treat it as something that's controllable? Or is mostly the stress which you experience uncontrollable and its intensity seems unlimited? So, whatever it is, please write that out for yourself or actually pin it for me in the comments section for me to know and understand that how is it that you experience your stressors. Take a little time to think about it, and then here we go. So, I'm sure you listed out everything that you think and feel when it comes to coping with your stress. But now is the time to actually realize what stress has actually cut. I'm glad you've taken the time to think about what coping styles you use to deal with your stress. But take a minute to realize that when stress is overwhelming, actually impairs your ability to cognitively, emotionally, physiologically, and psychologically be clear, right? The first thing that stress actually does for you is make your mind very fuzzy. The indecision, the sleeplessness, the overeating or undereating, or resorting to substance, or behaviors which seem very unlikely of you, or feeling lost and feeling like you're not worthy or capable of dealing with anything in your life. All of this can feel quite overwhelming. It can also lead to experiencing anxiety and depression from time to time, as well as it can kind of impair your ability to think correctly, straight, under certain circumstances. That sense of worthlessness, helplessness, and valuelessness is what is something that might, kind of have a huge impact on your confidence as well. With all of this and bodily symptoms, which could include a racing heart palpitations, or increased blood pressure or a low blood pressure, or the sweaty palms and feet at all times, the tension in your muscles can also feel overwhelming and not leave you with very many ways to be able to deal and cope with stress. With all of this overwhelming vicious circle of what stress symptoms feel like, how is it that one is to cope? Well, coping is quite specific to individual and it varies from individual to individual. Let's unravel this for you now. So, guys, like CBSE says, coping is actually a dynamic situation specific reaction to stress. It is a set of concrete responses to stressful situations or events that are intended to resolve the problem and reduce stress. So, the whole idea of coping is actually to help you to resolve whatever problems you're experiencing and reduce whatever stressors are coming into your life at a moment in time. Also note why it says that it is dynamic situation specific. It's because the situations around us also keep changing, right? And we as individuals also are not the same in every circumstance and situation. So depending upon the several internal and external factors, it's very dynamic the way we deal with stress. Sometimes if we are overwhelmed with life itself, a small stressor can also feel huge. On the contrary, if we are, very happy-go-lucky and we're not very used to handling stress, that stressor as well can feel quite huge, right? So that's why it's dynamic. And yes, of course, it comes with a lot of coping strategies, which is what we were going to explore today. So when it comes to coping strategies, the first kind was given by Lazarus and Folkman. So Lazarus and Folkman, they've conceptualized a very dynamic process to deal with stress, and that has to do with the individual's trait. Okay, so individual traits are absolutely essential with the way you're dealing with stress. According to them, coping is something which can be easily divided into two types of responses, and these responses can either be problem focused or emotion focused. What does problem and emotion focused essentially mean? Problem focused is anything wherein you deal with the problem itself, which is creating the stress response. On the contrary, emotion focused coping does not focus on the problem, however, it focuses on the emotions that this stressor evokes inside of you and helps you to overcome those emotional issues by regulating them. So let's discuss these two types in details. The first is problem focused coping strategy. In this type of strategy, you want to attack the problem itself, right? You want to see that what is it that you could do better. Maybe you could organize information or gain information about that problem which is giving you the problem, right? Or you try to alter it somehow, or you try to change your own belief about the problem and the commitments that you have towards it. Okay, so problem focused coping, it essentially just focuses on the problem itself and it wants to help you to gain more awareness, knowledge, or whatever it is that the problem requires of you. Maybe it wants you to change behaviorally or cognitively and cope with it differently, right? All in order to help you reduce stress and see the situation as less harmful and threatening. That, my friends, is the core reason of behind problem focused strategies. These strategies are just going to help you cope with the problem itself to reduce the stress around it. The second type, according to Lazarus and Folkman, is called emotion focused coping. Emotion focused strategies are those strategies which will basically call for psychological changes in your emotions. So let's say that when you experience stressors, they tend to overwhelm you, or they actually tend to, emotionally drain you, or they really make you cry or get you to feel very fearful and afraid. So these events which occur in your life, which have caused you the emotion focused coping will teach you how to regulate those emotions. As we tend to regulate these emotions, the effort which will be needed from you to deal with this stressful situation will be a lot less, and you'll be able to alter that event effectively because you've learned how to regulate your emotions, right? So emotion focused coping, to summarize, will simply focus on the emotion which is getting you to magnify your stressor and will try to reduce the impact of the same. That is emotion focused coping for you. I suggest that you guys hold back, sit with your NCERT textbook and underline the important keywords before we proceed to the next coping strategy today. The next kind of strategy was suggested. The next strategy was suggested by Endler and Parker. So just like Richard and Lazarus Folkman had given out those two strategies, Richard Lazarus and Folkman, sorry, Endler and Parker were another set of theorists who gave out some interesting coping strategies which were quite similar to the earlier but with a little difference to do with a third strategy. So there is something known as a task-oriented strategy. This is quite similar to problem-focused coping, which basically speaks about, it involves obtaining information about the task itself, which is what is creating the stress inside of you. Okay, so it tries to look for some alternative courses of action, and it also tries to help you to look at how is it that you could differently look at the situation, take perspective, and deal with the problem more effectively. So it also kind of helps you to organize the tasks so that you could reduce the stress around the task. It is almost like when you have exams coming up and there are so many subjects that you need to deal with. And of course, you kind of have to lay out a timetable, or you have to organize the time that you want to give to every subject. When you sit to do this and when you prioritize subjects and tasks, that is actually understood as task-oriented strategy, guys. And it's something that helps you to directly deal with whatever stressful situation is that has come your way. Up next, we have emotion-oriented strategy, which is very similar to Richard Lazarus and Folkman's emotion-focused coping. In this kind of coping, what really happens is that you try to gain a lot of control over your emotions itself. This involves the feelings of venting out that anger or frustration or whatever indecision that you're experiencing, which once when done feels cathartic and you feel a sense of relief, and you tend to then change things and do them the way you had originally decided to do them. So here emotions are basically let out, and once it's done you feel lighter and easier and have more sense of control over it. Up next, we have avoidance oriented strategy. Avoidance oriented strategy basically involves denying or minimizing the seriousness of the situation. Sometimes, guys, what happens is that we magnify the stress that we experience in our everyday life. And magnifying this can actually make something very small seem huge and irritable and it can feel overwhelming. So avoidance oriented strategy, it just involves for the individual to very consciously suppress the stressful thoughts and replace them by more self-protective thoughts. These self-protective thoughts in the long run actually help you to guard yourself against any upcoming stressors and deal with them effectively. Hey there, welcome to another interaction on stress and meeting life's challenges, which is chapter 3 of CBSE NCERT psychology textbook. I'm so glad that you're here because of all the overwhelming conversations we've had so far. Now is the time to go ahead and explore some stress management techniques. So, guys, I'm sure that this is almost through the first quarter of your grade 12, and you must feel a little overwhelmed with whatever submissions, whatever tasks that have come your way. So, this is a good time to help you unravel some stress management techniques. These techniques are sure to help you with your everyday and help you keep calm and more composed with whatever it is that is coming your way. Are you ready to explore these techniques? Let's go. So, when it comes to combating stress, what is your go-to? What is it that you essentially do? Do you resort to eating a lot of food? Comfort food is my personal favorite to resort to. Or do you simply pick up the phone and phone a friend? Maybe sometimes venting and talking out your concerns to a friend is very helpful. Other times, some of us also try to go for a good run. Exercising is a great phenomenon that helps you and your body to release some happy hormones. We all know about this. Unfortunately, some of us also try to resort to substance when it comes to dealing with our stress. Substance use and overuse is very unfortunate and it has its own side effects. Please note that it might give you relief from your stress temporarily, but in the long run, it actually creates more harm than any help. So try avoiding resorting to substance when it comes to stress relief. But these are some of the things that some of us commonly do. Are there any other things that you resort to help relax yourself from stress? If yes, I would love to hear from you in the comments section below as to what is it that you do to overcome your stressors. With that in mind, let's go ahead and explore some of the stress management techniques. Guys, this could easily be a 4 or a 6 marker in your board exam, so please make sure to highlight, understand some of these points very carefully, and also mark up the keywords. Let's go. So, the stress management techniques actually start with the relaxation techniques. Relaxation techniques are all but some active skills which can actually help you to reduce the symptoms of your stress. They decrease the incidence of illnesses, right? So any form of relaxation technique which you do, which could involve some kind of yoga or breathing, is actually something that can help you with your high blood sugar levels and even heart disease. Okay, so usually when you are made to do any relaxation technique, you start from the lower part of your body, all the way from your toes, and it progresses up to your facial muscles, up to the scalp, right? In this way, your entire body progressively goes through rapid relaxation, and deep breathing is done alongside to help reduce the tension which is felt in your muscles. All of this helps to calm your mind and it relaxes the body deeply. This relaxation technique is very beautiful and very calming. There are a lot of YouTube videos online for you to explore if you would like to dive and explore some of these relaxation techniques. I will also link some of my favorites in the comment for you to check out. Then, of course, we have some meditative procedures. All of us have heard about the yogic method of meditation. Meditation is an interesting phenomenon, guys, that helps you to go through a sequence of techniques of refocusing the attention and bringing all of your attention on an altered state of consciousness. Now, to break this and make this easy, it's actually to disengage and disconnect from the outer world around you and to really go within and focus on your inner world. How you bridge the gap between the outer and the inner is simply by focusing upon your breath. So, if you guys can focus on your breath, it involves a lot of concentration, of course, and the meditator eventually, by focusing on the breath, becomes quite unaware of the outside stimulation, and this helps them to reach a different state of consciousness. That's exactly how meditative procedures work. And if you've never tried meditation to date, I suggest you try one today. The next method here is called the biofeedback method. This method is actually a procedure to monitor and reduce your physiological aspect of stress. All of us, whenever we experience stress, experience some physiological symptoms, right? These symptoms could be a racing heart, it could be some palpitations, it could be increase or decrease in your blood pressure, sweaty palms of feet, tightening or strengthening of your muscles, right? So these physiological aspects of stress, how do you think that one could measure it? So for measuring these, we have a biofeedback tool that allows you to take the current of your physiological activity and kind of reflect it to you and then change it by inducing some relaxation training. So biofeedback is essentially like a little box with some patches which are put onto your body, which measure your bodily processes. And this little box, it shows the metrics of the performance of your body. Then some relaxation training is introduced, which helps you to raise awareness of the particular physiological responses which your body emits at a point in time. And it is noted that once when the relaxation training is introduced, the body tends to perform better. It has a tendency to lower the blood pressure, to calm down the sweating, to ease out the emotional reactions which you're displaying as a result of the stress that you experience. And yes, of course, physiologically, the body performs in a much more healthy manner. So what happens with this is that you kind of give out the control which you have on your body and emotionally you feel healthier. That is how the biofeedback mechanism works. Up next, we've got creative visualization. Don't all of us love to daydream away? At least I do. And daydreaming, which is also a form of creative visualization, is a very effective technique for dealing with stress. Creative visualization is something which is subjective experience, which uses imagery and imagination. You're free to imagine anything that you please. It could be your favorite holiday, or a time that you had with your best friend, or a lover, or with your parents, or a sibling. Whatever circumstances which made you feel blissful and satisfied, something that brought calmness and love and feelings of adoration and admiration, you could imagine anything limitlessly. And that's how creative visualization is actually an asset to set oneself up a space to go in ahead, build the confidence, build that sense of value worthiness. A lot of affirmations also help you to do that though, but this is a great sure way to calm one's mind, body, and relax oneself deeply as we close our eyes. This also reduces the risk of interference from unbidden thoughts and provides that creative energy for us to turn an imagined scene into reality. So this is how we actually shift our reality. And creative visualization, guys, is a great tool, especially when your life doesn't seem to be working in your favor. All you've got to do is close your eyes, feel and believe, and literally see everything that you would like to see through your mind. Great. Moving on ahead, we've got cognitive behavior therapy. These techniques, they involve a lot of stress inoculation training. Stress inoculation means exposing you to a circumstance wherein a stressful situation is inoculated into you. And this theory was developed by Malcolm. So this particular technique is one wherein you tend to replace negative automatic thoughts or those irrational thoughts which you experience in your everyday with more positive and rational ones. So, the whole idea here is to soothe yourself and kind of allow life to serve you rather than to destroy you. This is easily done by replacing those negative thoughts with more positive, self serving thoughts. This is how the treatment really goes. This tool is used, it starts and sets out with assessment. First, there is assessment done of the nature of the problem. That is what is creating the stress. So the person or the client recites whatever it is that is stressing them out in their everyday life. And after post assessment, there is some stress reduction techniques which are used to help the client overcome the stressful experience of the circumstance at a moment in time. So this technique is proven to be very helpful in reducing stress, guys. And of course, there is a lot of application and follow through, which helps with making sure that the person has truly overcome those negative beliefs and has kind of adopted more positive self-serving beliefs, right? And that is how cognitive behavior therapy truly works. Moving ahead, and this is everybody's favorite, is exercise. There is no end to articles, theory, and even practical data on how exercise actually is a great vent for whatever stress we experience. Because as we move our body, all the cells in the body also get to move and shuffle and kind of release all of those emotions which have found home in some parts of our body. Physiologically, as we move around, it creates an experience of arousal and it helps those hormones to release the happy hormones and serotonin all around in your body that gives you to give out the stress and take in more harmony. It's best done when it is carried out in nature. So don't forget to exercise today and release all of that stress. With this, we come to the end of a lot of tools and techniques which can help you to overcome stress. I'm curious at this point about what all techniques do you individually use and what all would you want to take away from the techniques that I just exposed you to. Which was your favorite? Which one is it that you plan to introduce to your routine in your everyday? Do share with me, I'd be happy to know.